Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Peggy McColl says your darkest moments can reveal your greatest gifts. Let's find out more from Peggy. Peggy, thanks for being with us today.
Such a pleasure to be here. I love the focus of your show and the dedication that you have to serving others.
Well, we love having you, and you've got, first of all, a great approach. The darkest moments, sometimes that's just when we need that little extra punch, that little encouragement to keep going. And you start out by, well, I want to ask you before we get into your life story. You began to study personal development many, many years ago, and I think you actually had a suicidal incident before getting into this. So can you tell us a little about your background?
Yeah, sure did. It was around January 1979 that I was dragged kicking and screaming to a motivational seminar that was being delivered by Bob Proctor. And I was working for a company in Toronto. I was definitely suicidal. I had no desire to live. I would cry myself to sleep at night, and pretty miserable person, not a fun person to be around. And I was told that I had to go to the seminar. We were mandated as part of the employees of this company. And I found myself in the front row, because when I arrived, there were no other seats except this front row center seat. And I sat there, and Mr. Proctor started speaking, and he woke me up. And he quoted Vernon Howard, and he said this: "You can't escape from a prison unless you know you're in one." I was in a prison. It was a prison of my own making, and I decided to escape, and that's when I first began studying personal development.
Well, we certainly have an expert and someone who's been there and done that and gotten to where you are today. What is, if there's one piece of advice you'd give someone who is currently struggling, what would you tell them?
Yeah, well, I've been there. I've struggled, and I've struggled a number of times. You know, the truth is that we all go through adversity. Everybody does. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is get a goal that you're inspired by, like something that you really love. What is that? Now, that may be, maybe a stretch for some people if they're currently struggling, but you've got to think of an idea or a thought or some kind of future outcome that inspires you. Like, what could that be? What would that be if you could turn your life around, or if you could actually manifest something that is in your heart? Get that goal, think about it, and write it down. That's a great place to start.
With the people you've worked with, is there any typical area where goals come in? Is it a financial, I want to work in a profession where I can make at least so-and-so? Is it a love interest, finding the right spouse, or even just working for perhaps their children or their grandchildren?
Yeah, for sure. I would say that if we were to put it into a couple of camps, like what are the greatest areas that people have goals for, I would say financial, definitely one of them. And another one that I found, and this could be from my own experience of manifesting dream home after dream home, but that's another one, the home that people live in, where they live, how they live their life. But finances, I would say, is the first one, because a lot of people associate having money with freedom. And ultimately, that's what they want. They want the freedom. They want the freedom to do what they want, when they want, whenever they want, with whoever they want.
And that's a great point. And even if it's simple freedom, having a certain type of food for dinner, or pleasurable activity on the weekends, golf, tennis, fishing, or maybe going further, going for weekend trips, etc. I think we all want that. And today you're going to show us how to find it. So we're putting a lot on your shoulders. Now, what's the one thing that made the biggest difference in you getting results? What have you found that has helped people the most?
Discipline. It really is disciplining yourself. We're habitual creatures, us humans, and we will tend to do the same things, think the same things, feel the same things over and over again. Emotions are habitual, and we have to understand that. We have to recognize that as we continue to do the same things over and over again, we're not going to get a different result. However, when you discipline yourself to do certain things in a certain way, you're going to find it's going to make a difference. It may be baby steps. It may be subtle progress in the beginning, but ultimately you'll find yourself in a whole new place by disciplining yourself. You see, I've been in the study for 14 years before I got to a point where I started thinking, this stuff doesn't work. I was really feeling frustrated. And I thought, it's not the stuff. It's my old way of being that I keep feeling drawn back into. And I thought, okay, no more. No more. I'm going to discipline myself. I'm going to actively and aggressively, in a very loving way, follow practices that are going to produce results, like listening to audios every day, studying every day, focusing on my goals, doing visualization, doing these certain things that really contributed to my success. So I'd say it's discipline.
And, that's great the way you said that, because and we didn't talk about this or exchange this information before the show, but so many of our guests have said that they've either found one author they like or several authors, and they just kept reading their book. And some of them literally said they've worn out. At that time, it was a audio tape or a DVD or a CD or something, and they would listen to it over and over and over. And it just became such a part of their life that all day long, if they were in their car or they would go home and force themselves to read it. Is this, though, especially hard because we seem to be in a bit of an undisciplined world where we're distracted? We have so many electronic devices, apps, emails, phone messages, texts coming in. Is this even harder today, or is it getting easier?
Yeah, I would say it's easier because we do have the technology, the ability. When I started studying personal development and reading books, and there were audios available at the time. I think it was cassettes back then. I'm not even sure, 40 some odd years ago now. And now we can put things on our phones and we can carry them with them wherever we go. If we want to have reminders or statements or affirmations that pop up on your phone on a regular basis, we can do it. The other thing is, think about this. I mean, we're connected right now in a way that you're in a different city than I am, but yet we're here and we're connected. There's over 5 billion people connected online, and we have access to information galore. Like somebody just go to YouTube and invest the entire day studying and watching videos and getting inspired or learning how to fix their kitchen sink if they want. But I find it so much easier today because of technology.
Are there any disciplines in your life that you can share with us and say, this works for you? Now, maybe it won't work, or maybe you can tell us this is a universal discipline. It works for everybody. Everyone should do it. But are there some tips you can share with us?
Absolutely. What I decided to do back in the 1990s when I was frustrated with my lack of results and decided, okay, I've been studying this for so long, I want to see results, is I wrote something, I call it a power life script. And it's a script of my life as I choose for it to be in the present tense. So I wrote out this detailed script so that I could see it in my mind's eye, but more importantly, so I could feel it in my heart. So I wrote out the script, I recorded the script, I put it in audio and listened to it multiple times a day. And this is a technique that I started in the 90s. It is the number one technique. It's the number one tool that I use and have continued to use, and my clients continue to use to change our life. And it works because you can listen to your audio and it's making impressions into your subconscious mind, which is really our programming. It really is our programming. This is how you can change beliefs. This is how you can build the faith within yourself, seeing yourself doing the things that you want to do. I've used this to attract my husband into my life. I've used this to become a New York Times bestselling author. I've used this to manifest dream home after dream home. I use it in my business. I used it to, manifest success, anything. You can use it to manifest anything. I call it the Power Life Script. And I've had clients use this technique time and time again. Recently, I had a client who wanted to get pregnant, was told that she couldn't get pregnant. She used her Power Life Script. She saw herself pregnant. She saw herself with a baby. Her and her husband focused on this. And she got on a call recently and held up her baby and said, I manifested my baby using the Power Life Script. I had another client send me an email, said he 10 times his income using the Power Life Script.
Now, we want to know more about that because those examples are certainly impressive and they certainly catch our interest. If someone wants to do this, is this writing 3 pages, 30 pages? And then when they then read it into a recorder of some type and play it back for themselves. Is the recording 5 minutes, an hour? What do you recommend? What seems to work the best?
Great question. Here's what you do. You think about what would you love? What would you love to have in your life? How do you want to be living your life? What would that look like, smell like, taste like, so you can get some visuals associated to it so that it's very in tune with your senses. And then if you need to build a belief, one of the things, Bill, that was necessary for me to really build as far as a belief was to attract my husband into my life was that I was worthy of love. You see, I had a realization that I didn't believe I was worthy of love. And so I knew that if I didn't have that belief within me, I would never attract my husband. So that was part of my Power Life script. So how long should it be? How many pages? How many minutes? It depends. It depends on what you want to create. My Power Life script is 13 minutes long and it's about 7 pages in length. But I've had clients. I had one client. He wrote a 3-pager, not very long, recorded it. It was only a few minutes long, and he attracted his wife into his life. He ended up buying a vacation home down south, and he bought a beautiful big boat to go out. He's right on the water so that he could go out and do his fishing. He's a crazy, crazy fisherman. He loves fishing. And so his was just a few minutes long. I have another client. I think she wants to change the world, and hers is about 27 minutes long, but very detailed. So it's a personal thing, and there's no right or wrong. It's just what would you love and how do you see yourself living your life, and you write it in the present tense.
And it sounds to me like it can be personal, like you said, about finding the right husband, friend, companion in life. Money-wise, things, boats, houses, etc., or I guess just points of enjoyment, whatever that might mean, vacations, more free time, or something like that.
Yeah, it works on anything. It's like there's a commercial on television for Frank's hot sauce with a little old lady, and she says, "Try this blank on everything or on anything." And I think the same thing with a Power Life script. Try it on anything; it'll work for anything. I've used it for vacations. I've used it for vehicles. I remember one time my husband was watching a golf tournament on television, and they had a commercial for a Jaguar F-Type. And it was when the Jag F-Type just came out. It was a sports car, hot little sports car. And it turned my head. I was like, ooh, I want one of those. And my husband's like, well, they probably cost as much as a house. And I said, well, I'm not concerned about what it costs. I just want to go test drive it. And I test drove it, loved it, put it in my Power Life script. And I described it like I'm driving down the road, hugging the corners, the roof's down, the wind's blowing in my hair. I'm listening to my audios and hearing the revving of the engine because I loved the way it sounded. And I manifested that.
And it worked?
It worked.
It worked. Okay, that's the end. No, that's the part we want to hear. And I think for anybody listening, what do you have to lose? It worked for Peggy. It worked for many of her clients. And she's been willing to share with us that this goes back pre the year 2000. So this is working for many, many years. It's working for her. It's working for her clients. Let's try it. What do we have to lose? Peggy, at this point in the show, we want to remind our listeners that you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Peggy McColl, spelled McColl. She is the author of the book, Savvy Wisdom from Beyond. And Peggy, we're going to ask you, what is a website where we can learn more information?
It's easy. It's my name, PeggyMcColl.com, Peggymccoll.com.
We'll ask you that again, so if listeners didn't have a chance to get it down, Peggy will give us that information before the end of the show at least one more time. And you're hearing some great things today. It's not really hard. All you have to do is write down, and what was it called, the Power Life script?
Yes, Power Life script.
You can see I've got that in my notes already because when I get home, I'm going to do some writing. And if it's working for you and is working for others, it can work for me too. So why not try it, right?
Absolutely.
Peggy,
it works for anything.
There's a saying that successful people do the things other people won't do. What are some of the habits that successful people or unsuccessful people don't do and the successful ones do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's study success. I've been studying success now for over 44 years. I wouldn't even think of not doing that. And the reason is because it just allows me to grow. Like the truth is, we're either getting better or we're getting worse. You just have to decide which side of that equation you want to be on. And a lot of people aren't willing to invest the time to study or the money, to buy a book or to listen to an audio or get a book on audible.com as an example. So that's one of them. You and I were just chatting about the Power Life script, a brilliant technology or a brilliant tool that can transform every area or any area of your life. I want to give you another example of where I used it, by the way, in a moment. And it's just a matter of, like you said, Bill, you're going to, go and consider doing this even further. Like other successful people, unsuccessful people wouldn't do that. What I wanted to mention was what came to my mind is about a year and a half ago, I was diagnosed with metastatic cancer. And it started in my tongue and it was in my neck. And that's how they discovered it. There was a lump protruding out of my neck, and ended up going through treatment and got pretty sick from the treatment, not from the cancer, from the treatment, which, as we've all heard, is quite often the case. And I was hospitalized. But I never, ever, ever stopped listening to my Power Life script. And yes, I had in there about health and how energetic I felt and how wonderful I felt. And that turned it around. I think my oncologist was stunned at how fast, I turned my health around and how fast I got cured. And I didn't do all the treatments. At one point, I just said enough. And she sent me for a scan about a month after I got out of the hospital. And it was all gone, like completely cleared. And she's actually become a friend of mine, my oncologist, as a result of that. And so, there's an example of disciplining yourself by using something. I didn't feel like plugging in my headphones and listening to my Power Life script when I was going through what I was going through, but I did it anyway because I knew it would help.
That's great in many points, and I'm trying to conceptualize them all together. And just at the end, you said, of course, you didn't feel well to begin with. You didn't feel like plugging in your earphones to listen to a Power Life script when a doctor who was competent is saying to you, you have a severe cancerous illness. That's something that has to be treated. And yet you did it, and you stuck with it. And that's very impressive. And I think for all of us, hopefully the rest of us won't have anything that severe. It'll be something we want, looking for that right companion, that right mate, perhaps getting a better job that we like, a job closer to home, a position that brings out our best and pays us more. Those are comparatively light things compared to health issues. And if it can work for you on that, again, to our audience, why not try it? It costs basically nothing, maybe a machine to record it and a pad and a pen. That's it. And I'm sure we have them around the house. And Peggy, you mentioned you went and you read books on it. You studied success. We've been on now almost 35 years. People can listen to podcasts for free. They can go out and buy the books that our authors put out. They don't even have to buy them. They can go to the library and get them for, 2-4 weeks and pay nothing. So if you want to be successful, stop and think about that for a few seconds. You've heard what Peggy has overcome, both attempts at suicide and a diagnosis of cancer. Again, give it a try. Peggy, you talk about the beliefs that we have. And where does that come in, and what kind of beliefs are you talking about?
Yeah, beliefs are something that are created when we're younger. And a lot of people don't realize that they're already in your subconscious mind. They're a part of who you are. I gave an example earlier when I talked about, realizing in the 1990s that I wasn't worthy of love. That was a belief that I had. Now, why did I have that belief? The beliefs are created when we're young children, but unless we change them or replace them, they're going to stay there. They will remain. And I had this realization because I was going from relationship to relationship to relationship, and there was something common in all those breakups, me. And so I realized, okay, there's something going on here, and I need to be willing to take a look at this. So I had the realization I had a belief not worthy of love. What do I need to do? Build it. So I had to build the belief. And how do you build a belief? You build it with constant repetition, affirming the belief. So I am worthy of love. I am a loving being. I give love. I receive love. And I would say that as statements that I felt. It's important to feel it like right in your heart and not just say it, because we just say the words, but that's of no value. And I also had it become a part of my Power Life script, believing that I am in a loving relationship, enjoying a wonderful relationship, that I am a loving being. And that's how beliefs get built, by impression, by impressing it into your mind every day.
And I love that constant repetition because, again, that kind of, and it certainly does support the Power Life script. If you're seeing it and hearing it time and time again, I think all of us almost naturally are going to move in that direction. If we're saying get more exercise or eat more or eat less, we're going to do it because now it's on our mind. It's not something we're forgetting about. And again, to our audience, you've made it so easy. You're putting it out there. You're telling us what worked for you. And there is, if there's a cost, we're talking less than $20. And I don't even know what that's for other than the pad and the pen. But it's not something that we can escape by saying it's too costly or it's going to be too expensive for us. So the success is out there. All we have to do is follow the direction you're giving us. Peggy, once again, I want our audience to know that if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My guest today is Peggy McColl. She's the author of Savvy Wisdom from Beyond. And Peggy, we're going to ask you if you'd give us that website again.
Absolutely. It is PeggyMcColl.com, PEGGYMCCOLL.com.
We hear the expression manifesting a goal. What does that really mean to manifest a goal?
It's to have it come into your life. I'll give you an example. My 7th book, I Made a Decision, would be a New York Times bestselling book. And I hadn't done that before, but it was a goal. It was a dream. So what did I do? I saw it first before it actually became in my life, evident in my life. So I took the cover of my book. I went on my bookshelf and found Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because I had that book on the shelf, cut out the gold embossed emblem that was on the cover, stuck it on my cover. The book wasn't even out yet. It was actually getting ready to be released. And I put it in a picture frame on my desk. And then after staring at it for a while, I decided to go to the Office Depot store and get more color copies made. So I put it in my bedroom, I put it in my fridge, I put it in my bathroom, put it in my car. I had it everywhere. And so I saw myself and felt the elation of being a New York Times bestselling author. So when the book was released, it became a New York Times bestseller. And my agent called me to tell me, hey, Peggy, your book's going to be on the New York Times bestseller list. And I was jumping up and down, but I noticed something. I noticed that I wasn't feeling any different. And the reason why I wasn't feeling any different is because I was already emotionally involved in the outcome. I had already felt it. You see, when we manifest a goal, we manifest it first in our minds before we'll ever see the physical reality of it.
Again, I love all of this, and I think to our audience, some people are probably shocked. But again, you're the living embodiment of this. It worked for you. You've done it. Your clients have done it. So it really does happen. Now, you've written a book called Dark Easy with a subtitle that you have to explain. Work half as hard.
Darn easy.
Yeah. Work half as hard, earn twice as much while living the life of your dreams. Is this really possible, or is that just a nice, catchy title to make us read the book?
Well, it's definitely a catchy title.
It is.
Absolutely, it's possible. You know, one of the things that Bob Proctor used to teach is how to make your annual income your monthly income. And just think about that concept for a moment. Do you think it's even possible? We were talking earlier about beliefs. You got to believe it, because if you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. There was a philosopher, William James, who used to say, believe and your belief will create the fact. And think about this. You know, if we hear something over and over again, we will start to believe it. And I believe it's absolutely possible to work half as hard, earn twice as much while living the life of your dreams. Most people are simply in their own way. They don't even realize that they can do it. I've had so many clients tell me that they've done that. I had one client I worked with for 3 months, and she tripled her income in 3 months. Now, taking your annual income and make it your monthly income is 12 times. I had another client who took his income and multiplied it 43.75%. 43.75%. Absolutely possible.
That's I'm trying to do the math in my head while we're talking, and it truly is amazing. Talk about the role of gratitude in our life. How does that affect what we're looking for and our personal growth?
Yeah, I love that. You know, gratitude is really, feeling good. And when you feel good, you attract good. Like, that's the simplistic way of describing it. You feel good, you attract good. But gratitude has you looking at the things in your life that are wonderful. Now, you can use gratitude to feel the appreciation for things that are already in your life. But you can also use gratitude as a manifestation technique. You could use gratitude to feel the joy of something that you want in advance. I had a client send me a letter today along with a necklace. It was very kind of her to send me this gift. And in the letter, she said that she practiced what I had suggested to her to do to feel the gratitude for selling her home. She had her home on the market. It wasn't selling. I said, what does it feel like now that it's sold? She said, I feel grateful. I said, great. That's what you need to practice. You need to feel that gratitude every day. And she was like, well, the market's this. And she was giving me all the reasons why it wouldn't happen. I said, forget that. Do not look at what's there or what the market is. What is the desire that you have? Sell the house. Okay. Feel the gratitude of selling your house. And she did that. She found it hard at first, But she kept going. She focused on it. And she sent me a letter today saying not only did she sell her house, but she didn't even have to put it on the market because she just got inspired to call a particular person, told them what she was going to do. And this person said, I have somebody who might be interested in buying your home. Brought them over and they bought it.
I jotted it down on my note page when you just said, feel good, attract good. And I like to mentally think as a guest is answering questions, does this really work? Would that be what I would say? And when I think of it, it really is true. If I'm in a good mood, I'm outward, I'm saying nice things to people. And of course, how do they respond? I can't even think of one that would come back and say something negative. It's like, oh, yes, you have a good day too, or they'll offer you something or just converse with you. So I'm going to make that one of the notes from this show, feel good, attract good, and try to keep that in my life. Peggy, we learn a lot from the things we shouldn't do and maybe our mistakes. Let's put it that way. Are there reasons that you've seen that and things that people typically do that keep them from achieving their goals? And maybe we can learn looking at the negative side. Yeah,
one of them is impatience, right? Impatience. I actually had a client call this morning with a woman who said that she was feeling impatient, that things weren't happening faster. And I know that. I've been there. But, there's an expression that goes like this, and I wrote about it in one of my books, infinite patience. Infinite patience, so an endless amount of patience, produces immediate results. And I want to think about that for a moment. Infinite patience produces immediate results. So when we think about a goal that we desire to have in our life, and we are actively imagining that it's in our life now, why would we be impatient? If we're practicing the laws of manifestation or the rules of manifestation, if we're really practicing it, acting as if, feeling grateful for the things that we have in our life, there'd be no room for impatience because where you have the result is in your consciousness first. And this is where it starts. It starts here before you'll ever have it in your hand. As Bob Proctor used to say, you got to hold it in your head before you'll have it in your hand or hold it in your hand.
Peggy, I love what you're telling us. And as you can see, I'm writing notes. You've made my question page a mess because I've got everything you've said down and I'm jotting it in the margin. Now I'll have to go home and translate it to myself. But you've really given us some things to think of. Before we wrap up, I'd like you to tell our audience once again the website where they can find out more because I'm fascinated with this material. I'm sure they are.
I love that. Yeah, my name is my website, PeggyMcColl.com, which is PeggyMcColl.com.
Easy enough to remember. And Peggy, just for our audience too to remember, your book is called Savvy Wisdom from Beyond. And if you like the ideas you're hearing today, you can go back and listen to it on a podcast. Go to nccradio.org. Look for Secrets of Success and our guest, Peggy McColl. Peggy, thanks so much for being with us today. We really appreciate having you.
It was such a pleasure, Bill. Thank you for having me.
To our audience, I'd like you to know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.